Okay, things are getting interesting. Elon Musk proposes sending DOGE dividend checks to taxpayers. I want to know your thoughts, whether good, bad, or ugly, down in the comments. And be honest. Don't hold back. So let's dive straight in. Elon Musk expresses interest in sending out those checks. The proposal calls for sending 20% of savings back to taxpayer. The legality of those remains in flux, with several elements of Elon Musk's plan facing scrutiny in courts. But Elon Musk said he will bring to President Donald Trump a proposal to send Americans rebate checks representing a portion of the money they save by slashing the federal government. So on Tuesday, Musk posted on X that he will check with the president on the CEO and co-founder James Fishback's idea to send those dividend checks, because this was an idea that actually sparked from a viral video. I believe it came from TikTok, if I'm not mistaken, and now it's actually on the forefront. The plan calls for returning 20% of the savings generated by the Department of Government Efficiency back to taxpayers in the form of direct payments. We want to help make DOGE real for millions of Americans. They deserve a portion of the savings DOGE will deliver under President Trump's leadership, Fishback said. Fishback, the founder of a self-styled, free-thinking investment firm, recently launched a fund backing companies that reject diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and has been a vocal supporter of Trump and Musk's agenda. If Musk successfully meets his lofty $2 trillion government savings goal, Fishback's proposal would distribute $400 billion back to taxpayers, roughly $5,000 per household for the 78 million households that pay federal income tax. The proposed rebate would be less in the more likely scenario that the billionaire's DOGE effort fails to reach the target. So if it fails to reach the target, it'll be less. Long story short, budget experts warn that such a rebate program will require congressional approval, and lawmakers may prefer to use that money in other ways. Of course they would. Of course they would want to use it in other ways other than give it to the taxpayers. Let me keep going. Some House Republicans have suggested the savings should go towards reducing the national debt. Other Republicans are eyeing those savings for a different purpose, paying for extensions of tax provisions enacted during Trump's first term. Any way to try to funnel it away from Americans who are the taxpayers who have funded several things and dealt with several things. But I definitely want to know your thoughts below. Now, before I proceed, I will insert this thought process that those taxpayers receiving a portion of where their money was misappropriated makes sense to me. Let's keep going. So if the DOGE dividend proposal is real, you have to have a way of estimating and collecting the amounts that are being saved and putting them into some account. Both OMB and CBO will look at that, and then Treasury would then record those amounts. Former OMB official and George Washington University lecturer of public policy, public administration said. So Redburn emphasized that even if there were measurable savings, Congress would still need to authorize the repayment to taxpayers and method of distribution. Additionally, the legality of DOGE remains in flux, with several elements of Musk's plan facing scrutiny in the courts. The idea of government-issued checks isn't new for Trump. During his first term in office, the government sent out 2 rounds of stimulus checks to millions of Americans to help keep them afloat during the pandemic. The checks were politically popular, and former President Joe Biden laminated not putting his name on relief check issued during his term, calling the move stupid. I want to know what you think down below. Do you think this is a great idea? Because if the taxpayers' dollars have been being misappropriated based on what they're finding, and they find billions of dollars of misappropriated funds going to things that you wouldn't believe, that's a whole nother conversation. But some of that money going back to taxpayers, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a great idea? Do you think that shouldn't be done? Do you think they should use that to pay back the government debt? Or do you think it should rightfully be distributed amongst the taxpayers? I'm of that belief. As long as they do it in a way that doesn't try to box the taxpayer in on how they can go about receiving the funds, they're not trying to say you can only receive the funds in these ways, then I'm for it, because it's the taxpayers' dollars, number one. And the funds have been misappropriated, which means that tax dollars that we thought might have been going to do certain things to help benefit us, benefit the country as a whole, did not. Plus, if it just goes to paying down the country's debt, people won't necessarily benefit directly, because the government debt, when you trace it, it went towards paying for items that is still in the possession of some entity, whether it's the government, whether it's a business. So for example, if they went in debt and they took out big chunks of money and they bought something from overseas, whether that's imported goods like automobiles, imported things like petroleum, imported things like anything you can think of that America imports, well, they still have those imports. That's not going to the taxpayers. So they still have those items. So just to go towards paying down the debt, so it looks good on paper, doesn't do a damn thing for the taxpayer. So I hope that makes sense, because if they just pay down the debt, somebody else still benefits. It just won't be you. So I'm all for this. And I like the fact that this was sparked by someone who's, really helping people understand finances as a whole. He probably would benefit, because if it does happen, then I'm sure with that video doing so well, so many people may be interested in what he has to offer. And, it's a win-win scenario, but it definitely benefits the government as a whole. And it would be a benefit to the administration, because it would look as though, hold on, not only did they come in and kick up dust and get back funds or find funds that was being misappropriated, they actually did a kickback to the people, to the taxpayers, and that will win favor with the taxpayers. Doesn't mean you should be naive and not want to pay attention to what's being done by both Trump and Musk, because it's all about paying attention to what's going on, being aware, not being naive or just in this cult-like mentality. You want to still pay attention to what's going on, so you're not taken advantage of, because nobody is exempt from error, exempt from having their own agenda. So you got to pay attention to it, take your emotion out of it. And I believe this could be good for the taxpayers. It could be good for the administration. They would look good, which I know, they would like to do. They would like to look like, dang, we actually did something real and effective and benefited the American people real quick in no time. And that would be a good look for them. And it could gain trust. But I'm here to tell you, just don't be naive with just issuing and dishing out your trust. Your trust should be reserved and protected, and it should be earned, not just 100% given. That's how I operate. You earn it versus I give you 100% trust and you just can't lose it. So you got to earn the trust over here. And this could be something I think that can earn the trust. But I'm interested in knowing your perspective. Do you agree with what I'm saying or not? Either way is fine. But the conversation is being had, and who knows what this can lead to. Mr. Smith, signing out. Salute.